Welcome to KiraStudio. KiraStudio is a new little music app focusing on creativity while trying to be a bit more approachable than professional audio workstations. I'm recording this with version 1.0, so the app is quite barebone at the moment, but please be patient, I have a lot planned for the future. Before we get started, two things. If you are on mobile, stop immediately and go watch the mobile version of this tutorial. It's exactly the same, but on a phone. Secondly, if you are watching this in the future, please look at the pinned comment below. The app just came out, I'm recording this with version 1.0. It's very likely that things are going to change in the future, and I'm not going to re-record this tutorial every time. This pinned comment will contain any kind of corrections needed so that you can still follow along in spite of these changes. All right, let's get started. We're going to make a song from scratch. I'll be moving quite fast, so don't worry if you can't follow every step in real time. This tutorial is mainly about showing you the app's workflow and where everything is located. This first version of KiraStudio has a pretty strong focus on video game music. While we will expand to different genres in the future, I thought it would be appropriate to remake a video game track as a tutorial. So we'll be remaking the first few bars of First Steps from the Celeste soundtrack by Lena Raine. Celeste is a nice little indie platformer that came out a few years ago. We won't be aiming for super high accuracy here. This is just a pretext to walk you through some of the features of the app. This cover was provided by AudioBoss. He provided a lot of the demo songs that come with the app as well. He's an absolute musical genius. Please go check out his YouTube channel, link in the description. Let's listen to what we're going to recreate here. The song is available in the demo songs, which are accessible by pressing the open button in the toolbar. So we've got our work cut out for us. We have a piano, a drum kit, a bass, some little blippy arpeggio, and a lead melody to create. Before we get started, let me go over the user interface real quick so you guys know what you're looking at. At the top is the toolbar. The only thing I want to draw your attention to here is the tooltips at the top right corner. Keep an eye on them. They will teach you how to use the app. They change constantly as you move your mouse. They'll show you keyboard shortcut, what the mouse buttons do, and so on. If you ever get confused, press the big question mark next to it. It will bring you to the documentation, which contains a lot more information than this tutorial can ever deliver. Below the toolbar is what I call the sequencer. It is basically the pattern editor. It will display all the channel, tracks, and pattern making up your song. This is basically like a high-level view of the structure of your song. On the right is the Project Explorer. This allows you to navigate through all the things in your project. This is also where you will be modifying most of the parameters of your instruments and effects to achieve the sound that you want. Below the sequencer are going to be various views, such as the piano roll, automation track editor, various curve editor, sample editor, and so on. This view will constantly be changing depending on what you're editing at any given moment. Finally, there is a little pop-up piano that can be toggled from the toolbar. This piano allows you to preview instruments. There's also QWERTY keyboard input, which is the button right next to it. If you have a MIDI keyboard plugged in, you can also enable it in the settings, and you can use that as well. Now for the basic mouse control, for now all you need to know is the left mouse button usually creates stuff when you click, and a double click will often delete those things. The right button is used to open context menus when clicking. Please right-click on everything you see. A lot of features are only accessible to these context menus. The right button is also used to make selections. Simply right-click, hold, and draw a rectangle. Finally, the middle mouse button, the mouse wheel, is used for navigation. Scrolling the wheel zooms in and out, and pressing the wheel pans around the various views. Note that on some views, such as the piano roll and various curve editor, you can also zoom vertically by using the mouse wheel on the piano or on the scale on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll mention various keyboard shortcuts as we go, but the ones we'll be using constantly is undo and redo, which is mapped to Control-Z and Control-Y respectively. Here I will undo all the changes we just did. All right, let's get started. I will press the new button and we will remake the song from scratch. We will first create the basic instrument and enter all the patterns and note. Once we are done with that, the song will sound a bit dry and mediocre. But in the second part of the video, we will add all the effects and make it sound real nice. Let's first turn our attention to the sequencer. Each row in here is a channel or a track. By the way, these terms, channels and tracks, don't have anything to do with MIDI channels and tracks. They're just words. Right now, we just have the master channel, which is always there and cannot be deleted. Finally, on the x-axis, each column is one bar of music. First thing we're going to do is to create a new instrument channel by pressing the Add button below the master channel. An instrument channel is a channel that uses an instrument and the piano roll to play notes. Right now, since we don't have any instrument, it will ask us to create one. Instruments in KiraStudio are made up of generators. A generator is just a thing that generates sound. They range from very simple things like a sawtooth or a square wave to more complex things like a sound font or FM and so on. There's also some retro gaming emulation in there if that's your thing. Most instruments you will encounter uses a single generator, but it is possible to combine multiple and create interesting sounds, as we will see later. We will start by creating the piano, which is the first thing we hear in the song. We will use a sound font generator and just use the built-in sound font and the default preset, which happens to be a piano. Now, if you look in the Project Explorer, you will see the parameters of our new channel and instrument. The channel is in red and the instrument is in blue. So we're essentially looking at two objects here. KiraStudio uses a model where one channel uses a single instrument, but instruments may be reused by multiple channels. Right now, both the channel and instruments have the same name, so it's a bit confusing. I will rename the channel to piano and leave the default name for the instrument. The name of the channel is in the general settings section of the channel. In the sequencer, you will also notice that our new channel has a lighter background color. This means that it is currently the selected channel. The selected channel is the one you will hear when playing the little pop-up piano. Now let's click in the first empty space in the sequencer to create a new pattern, and then once again to open the piano roll. The piano roll is pretty straightforward. On the right side, you have a floating toolbar with various options such as snapping. We will leave everything to default right now. Let's draw the first 4 notes. They are all 16 notes, E, B, A, and E. These first 4 notes are repeated 4 times to fill the bar. Let me show you a couple ways to duplicate those notes very quickly. We can make a selection by right-clicking and drawing a rectangle. When more than one note are selected, a little copy icon will appear in the corner of the selection. Dragging from this icon will duplicate the selection. I'm going to undo here and show you a couple more ways to duplicate the notes. We could have simply dragged the notes and hold Ctrl to duplicate them instead of moving them. Same result. Finally, we could have used copy and paste to duplicate them. Make a selection, Ctrl-C, move the playhead to the paste location, and then Ctrl-V. Now let's listen to our first bar by pressing the space bar to play. It plays a bit too fast. To change the BPM, I'm going to go in the master channel settings, and I'm going to set it to 90. If you find it difficult to get the exact value of 90, you can hold Ctrl to switch to a more precise scrolling. But here I'm just going to double-click and type in the value directly. Now the piano is a lot softer in the song, and there are subtle accents here and there. To change the velocity of the note, we're going to open the Note Parameter Editor by checking the option in the floating toolbar of the piano roll. We're going to select everything by pressing Ctrl-A, and we will set the velocity to 50%, with a slight accent on the 3rd and 4th beat. Now it sounds a lot more delicate. Believe it or not, this is the only bar we need for the right hand of the piano. All we need to do is to repeat this 12 times. Patterns can be copied or instanced. Instance is a fancy word for a copy that is linked to the original, meaning that changing one pattern changes all of them. When you click on a pattern in the sequencer, you can move it by simply dragging. You can copy it by dragging from the little copy icon, and you can instance it by dragging from the little link icon. Note that you can only create instances on the same track. Instance pattern will share the same 3-digit number. They will also show a little link icon when selected and will always be identical. Notice how the other pattern 000 changes when I make a modification, but not 001. Here we're going to instance the pattern 12 times. Now we have our 12 bars of piano, but by default the app creates a new song with 16 bars. How can we resize it? The Project Explorer displays a hierarchy of our project. For example, here our channel piano is inside Song 1, which itself is inside the untitled project. We can click on any of those objects to see their parameters. For example, let's go back to the root of the project and give it a better name. Depending on your platform, some of these sections may be collapsed by default and may need to be expanded. We can also see that our project only has one song and one instrument. This is where you would come to add extra songs to your project. Now let's click on Song 1 and also give that a better name. Right below the song name is where you will find its length and default time signature. We can click on this and set the length to 12 bars. Now we have the right hand of the piano. For the left hand, we can reuse the same channel and simply add a new track. Adding extra piano roll track is mostly for your own organization. Feel free to put everything in one track if you want, but here I want to try to keep things organized. To add a new piano roll track, you can simply press the Add button again and choose Piano Roll Track. The left hand only starts playing later in the intro. Here I will create a pattern of 2 bars. You can resize pattern by dragging from the left or right edge. Let me draw the bass line real quick. It's E, B, D, and A. The left hand is quite soft. I will select all notes and give them a velocity of 40% in the note parameter editor. Finally, these 2 bars are repeated twice. I will create an extra instance of this new pattern. Next up are the drums. We will start with the snare, which sounds almost like white noise in the original. To recreate this effect, we will use a Game Boy noise, which emulates the noise channel of the original Game Boy. It can produce 128 different noise tones, which we can further shape with an envelope. Here I am adding a new instrument channel and naming it GB Drums. For snare, we will pick F#6, which sounds close enough. Most generator will have an envelope parameter. The envelope is essentially like a volume curve that controls how the amplitude changes over time. This parameter typically comes with an ADSR envelope assigned to it, represented by a little curve icon. Clicking this parameter will open the ADSR envelope editor. ADSR stands for Attack, Decay, Sustain, and Release. These are very standard in audio application. They are easy to configure using just a few parameters. Each one affects a specific phase of the envelope. Right now it doesn't sound really good, but by reducing the sustain and decay and tweaking the curve a bit, we can get a pretty convincing snare. The snare starts at bar number 3 and plays a couple 16 notes right before each beat. Let me enter the notes real quick. Finally, I'm going to instantiate this one pattern until the end of the song. Now let's listen to what we have so far. Our snare is way too loud compared to the piano. There's a couple places where we can adjust the volume. We could change it on the Game Boy noise generator we just added. The original Game Boy noise had only 15 discrete volumes. We could also change it on the channel itself. The channel volume is applied after all generators have outputted their audio. Here the volume isn't restricted to the Game Boy limitations and can take any value between 0 and 100. Here we're going to change it on the channel itself and set it to 20%. A much more convenient way of adjusting the volumes of channels relative to each other is to use the mixer view. You can open the mixer view from the floating toolbar in the top right corner of the sequencer. This panel will show you the volume, balance, and destination effect chain of each channel. Here we can see that the 20% volume we just set is there. It changes the exact same parameter. This is just a much more convenient way of doing it. Pro tip, on desktop, you can always press Tab to jump between text boxes that belong to the same view and quickly type in values that way. Now we're going to pick up the pace for the rest of the song. If you feel like you already understand how patterns and notes work, feel free to skip to the second part of the video where we add a bunch of effects. There should be timestamps in the video. For the kick drum, we will add another sound font channel and select the standard one preset. This is going to be a standard MIDI drum kit from which we will use a single note, C2, which is the kick drum. I'm going to create a 2-bar pattern starting at bar number 5 and enter the notes. Then I'm just going to instance this pattern 3 more times and give it a volume of 60% in the mixer view. Next up is the bass. We will use a generic square wave. It will sound quite raw for now, but we will tone it down with a filter in the second part of the video. For now, let's focus on creating the instruments, the patterns, and the notes. We're going to rename it and tweak the envelope a bit. We're going to go for a very slow decay here. In many bands, the bass often locks in with the kick drum, and this song followed the exact same approach. I'm going to create a new 2-bar pattern right below the kick drum and use the ghost note feature of the piano roll to display the kick drum notes as a reference. This goes on for 4 bars, and then switches to a different riff, which also goes on for 4 bars. Finally, I will set the volume of the bass to 60% in the mixer view. Next up are the little arpeggios that are played with a filtered saw. We will add the filter in the second part of the video. For now, we're going to add a generic saw, give it a nice name, and tweak the envelope a bit. Here, just like we did with the piano, I'm going to draw the first 4 16 notes and then copy them a few times. The notes are E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. This goes on until the end of the song, so I'm just going to instantiate this a bunch of times. Finally, I will set the volume of this entire channel to 60% in the mixer view. Finally, we will be drawing the first melodic phrase of the song. The lead instrument will be a square wave combined with a sawtooth wave. Let's first create the square generator and give it a nice name. Here, the artist wanted an envelope that's a bit more sophisticated than an ADSR envelope, so he decided to use a custom curve. Custom curves can reproduce most of what ADSR envelopes do, but are much more flexible. They can have any number of vertices, custom loop and release points. They can also more easily sync up with the tempo of the song. These are the types of curves you would use to create things like vibratos or tremolos. So we are going to replace the default ADSR envelope with a custom curve by right-clicking on the envelope parameter and selecting Control with Custom Curve. The custom curve editor looks similar to the ADSR envelope editor, but has a lot more options in the floating toolbar on the right. Here we're going to set a duration of 4 quarter notes, tweak the grid a bit, and draw our curve. You can just click on the curve to add vertices and double-click to delete a vertex. Now this lead is not a pure square wave, it has a bit of sawtooth mixed in. We're going to add a second generator by clicking the Add Generator button and choose the generic saw. We're going to lower the volume of this generator to 60% with respect to the square. We also want the saw to have the exact same envelope as the square. The easiest way to do this is to use copy and paste. Right-click on the square envelope and select Copy Custom Curve to Clipboard, and then right-click on the saw envelope and select Paste Custom Curve. Now both our generators will be perfectly in sync. Let's listen to our final lead instrument. Before we enter the melody, I'll explain a couple features that this melody uses, namely slide notes and no attack notes. Let me first create a 4-bar pattern for our melody. In order to hear more clearly, I'm going to solo the lead channel here. To mute or unmute the channel, simply click on its icon once. Muted channel will have their icons dimmed. To solo or unsolo a channel, double-click on the icon. To create a slide note, create a note, right-click on it, and select Make Slide Note. There are 3 types of slide. Note linear is likely the one you will use most of the time. Once a slide note is created, you can move its target by dragging the 4-pointed arrow that appears. Very often, you want to continue the melody after a slide note. If you try to add another note right after, you will notice that it doesn't transition smoothly since the attack of the second note is very jarring. To fix this, we will disable the attack of the second note. We right-click on the second note and select Toggle Note Attack. Notes without attack will display 3 little dots to show that they are the continuation of something. Now if we play, we can hear that we have a very smooth transition. Do note that you can disable the attack without a slide note. It will still work. Both features can be used on their own. Let me delete these couple notes and enter the main melody. The main melody is quite intricate, so to avoid wasting your time, I will speed up the video and put the notes on screen. Here the artist added little flourishes that may not appear on the transcription. All right, we are done. Let me set the volume to 60% in the mixer view, unsolo the channel, and let's listen to our final melody. All right, we have a rough first pass on the song. Now comes the fun part where we add a bunch of effects to make it sound really cool. So far, we've discussed two types of channel, instruments channel and master channel. A third type of channel are effect chains. Channel can send the output to effect change, and the audio ultimately makes its way to the master channel. The master channel can be thought of as a special type of effect change, in the sense that there is only one and it needs to be the final output. Effects such as filters and reverb can be added to any type of channel, but it is recommended to use effect chains to share effect across multiple channels whenever possible. This is good both for your own organization and for performance reason. Let's add a few filters first. These are fairly unique to a few channels and cannot really be shared, so we will not be putting them on effect chains. On the square bass, we will add a fairly aggressive low-pass filter. This will remove a lot of the harmonics and almost turn it into a sine wave. To add a filter effect, simply click on the Add Effect button and choose Filter. We're going to leave most of the settings to the default values. We're just going to adjust the frequency to 170 Hz. You can hear the impact of a filter if you change its value while the song is playing. On the piano, we will add a more subtle low-pass filter at 3000 Hz. Finally, on the saw blip channel, we would add a bandpass filter, and we are going to automate its frequency. But before we do that, we need to talk about automation. Automation is the idea of controlling some parameter automatically by some mean. In KiraStudio, pretty much any numeric parameter you see on an instrument or an effect can be automated in various ways. For example, let's take our piano as an example. In the pitch tab, I can change the fine-tuning using the slider. But if I right-click, I can also control it with a custom curve. And if I set a loop point, I can create a vibrato. This is the idea of automation. Now let's undo all that and get back to our saw blip. We're going to add a filter, set it to bandpass, increase the Q parameter a bit, and control its frequency with an automation track. When we do this, a new track will appear in the sequencer, allowing us to draw a curve and control our bandpass filter frequency. Just like piano roll tracks, we can add patterns and resize them, but this time it will bring up the automation track editor instead of the piano roll. Now I'm going to do my best to redraw the same curve that the artist drew. Essentially what we want is one big bump in the first couple of bars and a smaller one in the next two. Finally, we're going to repeat this whole thing twice. Let's listen to the effect of that automated filter. The lead melody has a bunch of effects on it, namely a slight chorus, a subtle low-pass filter, and a short delay. Here I'm just going to add them real quick. The chorus will make the lead sound more full, the low-pass filter will smooth out a bit of the sharp edges of the square and saw, and the delay will add a subtle echo. Let's hear the result of all those effects. The only effects missing now are the reverbs. The piano will have its own reverb since it is more echoey than the rest of the instruments. Then all of the others will share the same reverb on an effect chain. On the piano, we'll add one with 70% room size and 80% damping. This is going to sound very echoey, but also preserve a decent amount of high frequencies. We'll add an effect chain with a more subtle reverb and connect all of the other channels to it. To add a new effect chain, we press the Add button at the bottom of the sequencer. We will also give it a name to keep things organized. Now let's add the actual reverb effect to it. We'll leave all of the default values, but crank up the damping to 100% to tone down some of the higher frequencies. Also, to keep things organized, we're going to move our new effect chains right below the master channel by using the little drag grips that appear in the mixer view. Finally, we will route all of the channel except the piano to this new effect chain. Since we already have the mixer view open, we will do it here by changing almost all of the FX send to reverb. The song is almost complete. It is just missing a little cymbal swell, which we will do next. Let's listen to what we have right now. All right, we're almost done. All that's missing is that cymbal swell effect, which is that whooshing sound when the melody kicks in. To do this, we'll use our old friend, the Game Boy noise. Let's add a new channel, give it a nice name, and connect it to our reverb effect chain. Also, since this is somewhat related to our Game Boy snare, we're going to move our new channel below it by using the little drag grips that appear in the mixer view. We'll set up the ADSR envelope with 0 release, and we will control the volume manually with an automation track, since this is like a one-off effect. We'll add a couple notes and then control the volume manually. Note that there would have been many different ways of creating this effect, but here I'm just trying to reuse techniques that we've discussed during this tutorial. Let's listen to it in context. All right, guys, to the two of you who are still here, congratulations, you've made it. There's a lot more to the app than the features that we've used in this tutorial, so keep exploring. Please do check out the demo songs and the documentation to learn more about it. Come join us on Discord to share your songs with other users, bring up bugs to my attention, and test upcoming versions of the app. Anyway, I'm out. Take care, guys.